Hey guys, it's Danny. It is the 1st of May today, and this can only mean one thing. It's time to recap the orchids that were in full bloom in the month of April. So we're gonna continue the competition kinda that we started last time. I'm gonna present you the orchids that were in bloom, and down below in a comment you need to tell me which orchid was your favorite for this month. And at the end of the year, we're gonna recap everything and we'll see which one was the orchid of the year as chosen by you guys. I will link you down below to the previous months if you didn't have time to vote just yet, and we'll see by the end of the year who will be the grand winner. Alrighty, so let's start with the orchids in bloom this month, and oh boy, there were a lot of them. The job will be very hard for you guys. So let's start with the Dendrobium nobile orchids, which were all in full bloom. The first one is the Dendrobium Angel Lycee. P.S. I will add all of these names down below in the description so you know how they're spelled if you want to search them. So this is a Dendrobium nobile which produces pretty thin canes in comparison to the other ones. It is also not very tall, but the flowers are quite large. And they have beautiful white flowers with some pink splashes and also a pretty yellow-green, I would say, hint on the lip. Now the nobiles can have pretty much the same fragrance, but there is a little bit of a difference when you have them side by side. So I can tell you that this one smells kind of sweet. All of them smell heavenly, don't get me wrong, and the fragrance is pretty powerful. Out of all the fragrances, I prefer the fragrance of the Angel Lycee the most because it is just so sweet and wonderful and pretty yummy that it's hard to resist it. So with this one, if the colors do not impress you, you can rest assured that the fragrance will. It's not that type that is very exclusive. I think it is generally likable since it is so sweet and nice, doesn't have all sorts of weird undertones, and I'm looking at the catasetums now. So if this looks like something you would like, check out down below a care tutorial on the Dendrobium nobiles. They're really easy to care for, they just have a little thing you need to take into account, and that's the winter rest. Other than that though, they're absolutely fabulous, and the hybrids you can find on the market are really easy to care for. Alrighty, the next nobile that was in bloom was the Aurora, and this is my personal favorite, but it doesn't have to be yours. Now this nobile has a slightly different smell from the other one. My boyfriend actually describes it a little bit like watermelon. It is very similar to the fragrance of the Angel Lycee, still sweet within the fruity floral type of category, but it is just slightly different. The difference is just not as big as to make you choose one over the other really, but the colors, well, I think the Aurora has the advantage here. Just look at those colors. The flowers are a yellow-green with a very dark brown throat on the lip, and the tips are a pretty vivid purple. This type of Dendrobium produces thicker canes and also taller canes. It is actually the tallest and biggest Dendrobium that I own. However, it is a very easy bloomer, just as easy to care for. The flowers are large and of course very showy, and each inflorescence can produce 3, and sometimes I even had 4 flowers on the very same node. The downside is it is a big plant and it will only get worse, it will only get bigger with proper care, so it does require quite a lot of space. Other than that, care-wise, just typical nobile Dendrobium care, and it's just as easy as the other two. And the last Dendrobium nobile is the Akatsuki. Now this is the Dendrobium with the most, let's say, different fragrance from the other two. This one does not smell sweet. It is very similar to hyacinths. However, I did have a hyacinth in bloom at the same time with this guy. Hyacinths are sweeter than this. So this Dendrobium does not smell sweet. I can see how some people might not really enjoy the fragrance of this one, but it's still floral and nice. It's nothing repulsive. It is just not sweet. Other than that, it is the Dendrobium with the biggest flowers that I have. The flowers are also much more rounded than the other two. And of course, the colors are quite a lot more striking. We have a beautiful and very vivid purple as a main color, and then the lip has a really nice dark yellow throat. So if this fits the bill for you, just check out garden centers and even flower shops. They're very common, and most probably you will find them in winter or spring. Depends how they force blooming. Next up we have a Tolumnia, and this is the beautiful Genting Orange. It is a beautiful orchid, very autumn-like colors. It is non-fragrant. Many Tolumnia hybrids are not fragrant, but the colors are just so beautiful. Now this orchid produces a very long flower spike with a lot of tiny and beautiful flowers compared to its size. This is a miniature orchid suited for small spaces. It is also easy to care for, and if it's healthy, it will pretty much bloom every time a new fan matures. I have a weakness for Tolumnias really, because just look at those colors. They are just so rusty and nice, and it really stands out in my collection. Okay, next up we have an orchid that is sadly not in bloom anymore, but I think it was the main attraction of this month. It is a Cattleya family orchid, the beautiful Rechara or Myrmecaravola Francis Fox. And I do encourage you to see the initial presentation video, because this orchid, oh my goodness, it is my new favorite. So this orchid produces very large flowers, really nicely fragrant flowers, pretty similar to Masdevallia in fragrance, and the colors are yet again very striking, very autumny, a beautiful blend of rusty orange with quite wild brown spots on the lip. When the flowers first open, they have a really nice purple tinge to them, and as they age, they start to go to a more rusty orange and even yellows. Another easy to care for orchid in my opinion. If Cattleyas do great for you, pretty much this one will do as well. She does enjoy high light though, and I cannot say it is a small plant. It can get quite large. I would go as far as to say that if you have a limited budget and you want a standout orchid that is kind of easy to care for, it's not finicky like the Nelly Eiler, I would so go for the Francis Fox any time of the week. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Fragrance-wise, it is soapy. Many people actually describe the fragrance of Brassavolas as soapy, but just imagine the most luxurious soap you've ever smelled. I can only describe it as floral and clean. It's absolutely wonderful. The only downside is the fragrance starts to kick in after midnight, so depends. If you're up late, you can definitely feel the fragrance of this one. If not, you can just wait for the morning. The next orchid we had in bloom was a Miltoniopsis. Yay, I love Miltoniopsis, and I was really scared they would not do good, but I think I'm on the right track. These orchids are finicky. They are pretentious if you ask me, but something makes up for it, and these are the flowers. So this month my Red Tide produced huge flowers, and they're really pretty, although they suffered a little bit of breaking when the buds opened. They're not supposed to be this fringy, but sometimes accidents happen. However, the thing that I love most about all Miltoniopsis is the fragrance. I cannot describe it. It is a staple fragrance that I'm not sure you will find in all of the flower kingdom. I absolutely enjoy fragrance of Miltoniopsis in general, but this one is a little more rosy and violety than others. Other than that, I think it is a good hybrid to start with. It's easy to grow, it's pretty vigorous. I never had issues with the Red Tide as opposed to others like the Hair Alexander. Alrighty, next up we have an orchid that is already done blooming, but oh my, what an orchid! This is the first Phragmipedium that I ever see in bloom. It is the beautiful Phragmipedium Ainsworthii, which is an orchid with one of the longest sepals ever. And the total length of the sepals on my orchid reached 47 centimeters, which is still quite impressive. If you have it next to you, it's just wow. But imagine if the flowers can grow longer than that. Well, there's always next year. Now, this is not a fragrant orchid, and the colors are not necessarily super striking. The colors range from yellows to browns. But the whole display is absolutely breathtaking. Not the largest flower that I have in my collection, but still very impressive. Not entirely sure what else I can say about this orchid because it's a jaw dropper, and yeah, images speak more than words. However, this month we also had in bloom the orchid with the largest flower in my collection. It is a Cattleya, it is a species, it is called the mosiae. Now, I did the video presentation on this one quite recently, and back then I told you that the fragrance didn't really kick in just yet. But ever since then, it kind of did. It's beautiful. It's not very strong, but it's not mild either. It's intermediate, let's say. I don't think it will kick you out of the room, but definitely you can feel it when you're close to the orchid. I can describe it as powdery, but not in a bad way. Also reminds me a little bit like lilies. I think I've smelled it before on other Cattleya hybrids. I'm not surprised because this is a species very used in hybridizing. So the fragrance is typical for me. It's a typical Cattleya fragrance, but I just happen to adore the fragrance. It's floral, it's not wild. Generally, people like Cattleya fragrances, so I don't think you'll have issues with the fragrance, but the flower, so big. You should definitely check out the presentation video. I measured the flower. It's 14 centimeters wide, pretty much all around. And it makes a great contrast with the orchid herself because the orchid is not big. I called it a miniature orchid. Somebody said, no, not a miniature, it is big. But I was comparing it to the purpurata, which can reach 50 centimeters. So that's why I called it miniature. okay, let's call it intermediate size, if you consider miniature as Neophoenicias, but in the world of Cattleyas, it's tiny, even compared to the one next to it. So I do believe it is a space saver for a Cattleya. Don't imagine Neophoenicia space saving, but still it's not a large orchid and it makes such a great contrast with the flower. Oops, I almost forgot one, and by the way, the sound you hear is just my jug that's getting filled with osmosis water. So the Leprotes bicolor, we had her in bloom as well. It wasn't very impressive, I'll tell you that. It's a young orchid, the very first bloom it creates, but this is a miniature orchid which, when it matures, can create a multitude of flowers and can look really, really pretty. It is pretty, it is not fragrant, but some of them are. A little bit of a letdown because I was expecting a fragrance. But she's kind of pretty, and I am looking forward to the future because when it matures, it can look really, really pretty. So we'll just enter her in the competition as well, why not? It's just that it's a very young orchid and it's the very first bloom it ever creates. And oh yeah, it can create multiple blooms on one cane. Mine only produced one. Alrighty, next up we have a new acquisition, but it rebloomed ever since I purchased it. And this is another Phragmipedium called Ainsworthii. This is a really pretty red pinkish type of Phragmipedium, and the flower that just opened has a really nice shape to it. The good thing about this orchid is that it is a sequential bloomer, so from the top of the flower spike you will have quite a few buds opening successfully. No, that was not the word. Successively, yeah, that's the word. Being that it's a new acquisition, I cannot tell you much from my own experience, only that the flower is gorgeous, and as far as I read, it can produce up to 6 flowers or buds on the very same flower spike. And the total bloom time, of course, is extended. It's not a fragrant orchid, many Phragmipediums are not, but the color is just so pretty and I absolutely love the twisty petals. So the bushier the plant gets, of course, the more flower spikes you will have, until one day you'll probably have a dozen of them. So that's a nice thought to look forward to. So we'll enter this in the contest as well because it just bloomed very nice. And the last orchid we're gonna feature today is another new purchase, but it arrived with flowers. And it has such pretty flowers. It's the Masdevallia ignea. Now the flowers on this orchid are striking. They're a beautiful orangey red color with very vivid red veins. Now I purchased this orchid simply because I wanted to see if I'm able to keep Masdevallias alive. I am successful with one, but it might just be an easy hybrid, so I need to figure it out. So fingers crossed, this one will do great. Flower-wise though, it is so beautiful, and I'm telling you, the colors are really, really that striking. I'm not improving the video with boosting the colors or anything. It's very striking. Now the flowers are not fragrant on this Masdevallia. Many Masdevallias are not fragrant, but some are, and I do have a fragrant Masdevallia, it's just not in bloom. But when it comes to this one, I think the colors absolutely compensate. And what a beautiful name, ignea. I absolutely think about ignite, fire, and all of those things, and it's very, very suiting for this orchid. And as I was saying, I really hope this orchid will do great, so keep your fingers crossed, we're gonna see this orchid in the competition in the future as well. And those were the orchids in full bloom the past month, so as I was saying, pretty hard job for you to decide which one you liked best. I'm pretty sure you're gonna have multiple ones that you liked, but the rules are only one will win. So you will have the names of all of these orchids in the description. Feel free to Google them, learn more about them, search for them on nurseries, and don't forget to comment which one was your favorite. Thank you so much for watching, hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, give this video a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe to my channel for regular orchid and plants videos, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. And with that said, I'll see you all next time. Bye! We could have almost had the Vanagar as well in this video, but she still has one more bud to open. Total of 8 flowers, which absolutely fill my greenhouse with a beautiful freesia kind of scent. But this year, it reminds me of the Wine Delight a little bit. Really weird. Nonetheless, really, really pretty fragrance and really pretty orchid.